A couple of months after starting a software business, we almost went bankrupt. If it wasn't for this one simple webinar funnel that by now resulted in over $1.3 million of net revenue. Hey, I'm Niels, head of growth at Perspective, and we help over 5,000 agencies scale their paid media performance with highly converting and beautiful funnels. And in this video, I'm going to break down one of these funnels so you can implement the exact same thing for yourself or your clients. First, I'll cover the full structure of the funnel. Second, or rather in between, I'll touch on why webinar funnels still crush in 2024. And lastly, I'll give you the exact template to copy and paste for yourself. So be sure to watch until the end and let's jump right in. All right, so what you can see here is the fully fledged out funnel with different learnings that we collected on each stage, and I'm going to go through it one by one now. So first things first, of course, before you launch any funnel, you need to know how you'll get traffic. And for us, that's usually paid media. And for most of our clients, it's paid media because it's the easiest way to get your funnel up and running. And especially if your funnel is working, it's also no problem if you spend money on advertising because you'll make all the money back, right? So first things first, one learning that I want to share here is we sent these ads to this funnel. But what's really interesting is that this type of funnel has been with us for over, I think, 2 years now. And we have a couple more of these. And so one learning that I want to share here is once a funnel is running, you can prolong its lifetime by iterating on the front end. And what does the front end mean? So basically, of course, one part of the front end is the ads, right? So what are you actually saying in your ads? What value propositions, what problem are you talking about? And so on and so forth. The other part is the landing page. So what different value propositions, what different headlines can you use to actually entice people to want to click on your ads, to want to go through your funnel and to register for your webinar or whatever asset you basically have in your funnel, right? So that's one thing. And so we collect traffic through paid media, primarily through Meta, and then we send these to a landing page. And the landing page that we used in this funnel is actually pretty simple. You can see it right here. It's built out in Perspective, the best funnel builder there is. But basically, what we did is we had a headline up top. So first things first, what is it? So we just state the obvious. So funnel crash course. And then we have a headline saying copy and paste our 6 most successful landing page and funnel templates and learn how you can use them to easily win new customers or applicants in your industry. And the interesting thing here is what we try to do with our headlines is we try to make them as tangible as possible. So that usually means we try to include numbers. Copy and paste is always a great thing to say. I also said it in the intro of this video because it really showcases that it's tangible, right? So I'll get something. And that's really crucial, especially if you work in an industry where what you deliver is not as tangible or rather intangible. For example, for us, that's software. If it's a service for you or something similar, that's really a handy approach. So most important, of course, is the value proposition that we have in our funnel. And the strength of it predicts the conversion rate and also honestly predicts all the other metrics in your funnel. That means attendance, the sales that you'll do throughout the webinar and so on and so forth. So we really want to focus on making sure that it's a strong headline. And I mentioned what a strong headline is made of just now. And second, we want to make sure that it really relates to the content that is about to follow in the rest of this funnel because this funnel is quite extensive, right? We have a bunch of email sequences coming and so forth. So I'll break them down in a second, but that's really the most essential thing. I would start by writing the headline for the webinar before I would start to build out anything else, before I start to build the ads, before I start to build the funnel, before I start to build the script for the webinar. So really focusing on that one value proposition. Another thing is we ask for the question right away. So we have this quiz type of element in here. Basically, you can choose between 4 different slots for the webinar. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 10 a.m. And the psychological trick that we're using here is basically, and you've heard this before, maybe in dating or something similar, is don't ask the girl if she wants to go on a date with you. Ask her what restaurant she wants to go to, right? And that's the exact same concept that we're using here. So we basically turn the question from, do I want to join this webinar, into when will I join this webinar, by asking the question right away and especially above the fold. So it's the first thing people see on their mobile phones because the traffic that will hit the page is usually mobile first. So that's one thing. Another interesting thing that I want to share is that the closer the availability, the better the performance of attendance, because we've tried it all, right? We tried the on-demand webinar, we tried once a week, we tried in the evenings. So basically what we learned is that if you have a fixed time slots, attendance will be better. The quality of people joining will be better because they have the highest commitment, the highest intrinsic motivation to go through the funnel, to learn, right? And so that's really what we want to focus on. So we ended our iterations on the actual time slots that we provide with 4 time slots. And it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Of course, you will always have to test that for yourself because audiences vary, right? But in this case, this has worked wonders for us. Cool. So once people go on through the landing page, they are hit with the opt-in page. And this is really super simple. I also said keep it simple. We just add a bunch of social proof, try to increase trust a little bit, but we just ask for the first name and the email address, and that's pretty much it. Now, the magic then happens in the backend because we then build an automation basically sending leads from Perspective through Zapier to Intercom and Demio. Demio is the software that we've been using for our webinar here, and it's also really cool. It's very simple to use. And then we just send through a detailed calendar event, so people have it on their calendars. It just helps with attendance. That's a small trick as well. And then we send them back to our email tool. In this case, as I said, it's Intercom, so we can communicate with them before and after the actual webinar. Now, there's a really interesting thing happening right after, which is that we ask another question to personalize. And personalization is key for increasing conversion rates in your funnel or in any other marketing material that you run. And what we ask for is basically what their goal is. So we want to ask, do they want to generate more appointments? Do they want to win more employees, build or scale an email list? And once we know that, we actually hit them with a different offer, because if it relates more to our problem, of course, we're more likely to convert on the offer, right? So that's why we actually ask personalization questions in the funnel, just for the sake of personalizing content later down the line. And so basically, based on the answer that they gave during the personalization question, they are hit with one of these 3 pages. It's pretty much the same offer, all of which is a template, but it's a different template depending on the use case. And you could do something similar, of course. So if you're running ads for different types of audiences and or different types of clients, different types of ICPs, this is pretty much the playbook that I would use to make sure that we have a Tripwire offer. And Tripwire offer is already the right keyword, because we're introducing an offer before the webinar even started. And why is that? It's basically because having 2 offers in your funnel will help with profitability. We have one as a lower barrier entry, that's the Tripwire product, right? Because people that have purchased, that have an account with you, are more likely to buy from you again. And second, we have a higher barrier offer that is only for the sake of refinancing. And the magic of this, I will explain in a second, because this really worked wonders for us, because back in the day, as I said, we were a little bit tight on ad spend, but this strategy basically got it to work for us. All right, and so once they are hit with these pages, they either have the option, of course, to sign up for a free Perspective account and grab that template that we're offering for them here. And then if they have signed up, they are hit with the onboarding sequence, because then, of course, it's most important for us for people to get their funnel going, right? But that's a little bit besides the point of this video. I'll cover that in another one. And basically, if they haven't signed up, they are hit with the countdown sequence. They're hit with the countdown sequence either way, because they have signed up for the webinar, and we're, of course, going to deliver on that. And then we are sending 3 emails. I think in our funnel, it's actually a little bit more than 3, but basically we're just counting down the days. So in the week of your actual appointment, of your actual webinar appointment, you get a couple of emails on the days before the webinar is happening. So we try to make these emails as educational as possible, while leaving a cliffhanger so people are actually really excited to join the webinar. Meaning we will feed them with really good information, but don't share it all, and basically just hint at the webinar date. And that's also proved to help attendance a lot. So that's what we do. And then, of course, we have the webinar happening, and the webinar is basically a 45-minute walkthrough of the problem that your customers have, a story of how we had that same problem and or overcame that problem, and then basically the solution that we figured out, and then your offer. It's these 4 steps that we use in any video material, honestly. So in webinars, in VSLs, in ads, and this has been working very well for us. So that's actually also something that Peter Cal mentioned. It's a little bit simplified version of the VSL template that Peter Cal has, and it's a little bit tweaked for us, but basically this is a really good timeless structure to stick to when running any form of video marketing material. Another thing is that, of course, we want to be very educational, again, not just in the emails, but in the webinar in itself, because in B2B companies, one thing matters most, and that is depth of content. Because usually for B2B offers, you will have your prospect make a bigger decision. If that means, and bigger decision means they usually have more people involved, they usually spend more money, they usually stay longer with you, and they usually have to invest more than just buying a physical product in a D2C way, right? So that's why depth of content is really key. Make sure they're educated about the problem that you're solving, make sure they're educated about the solution or the approach to that problem that you use with your product, and then, of course, around your product, right? And then last but not least, the big part to the conversion is, of course, the $100 million offer that Hormozi coined, or basically just something irresistible. The concept is not new. This was around way before Hormozi launched this book, but Hormozi really did a good job in explaining the process of figuring out what the irresistible offer is based on jobs to be done and so on and so forth. So I would really recommend you give this a read. In general, though, just make sure that it's as irresistible as possible, because then you will have conversions. All right, and then after the webinar, of course, we will have some sales trickle in, and but the sequence or the funnel doesn't stop here, because then basically we run different email sequences based on if they attended the webinar or if they haven't attended the webinar. This is once again done with Zapier. Through Demio, we can also just check if people have attended the webinar or not, and then fire a tag in Intercom and send them specific email sequences right after. Once again, personalized based on activity. This really helped improve conversion rates by just making sure that the path they're following actually matches what they did before, right? If they haven't attended the webinar, then they just are hit with a recording sequence. We just want to make sure that they consume the content, because nonetheless, if they purchase or not, it doesn't really matter too much, of course, if the overall conversion rate is solid, because we want to make sure that we are educating our audience. And this is also a nice brand play, right? Because you really have something valuable to share with them. And then right after, they are led to the email newsletter. After they ran through the recording sequence, they maybe didn't purchase or maybe did purchase. Either way, they're led to the email newsletter. And then of course, from the newsletter, the next goal is again to get them to the sale or to the sign up. Then what's really, really interesting, of course, if they have purchased this or if they have attended the webinar better set, then they are hit with the sales sequence. We also check for if they have purchased the offer or not, because we don't want to spam them with sales emails if they have purchased the offer. And the sales sequence is also pretty simple. It hints back to the recording, make sure that they actually consume the webinar and have the education that we provide in that video. And then basically make sure that we provide some urgency, some scarcity, follow up with the sale, and make sure that people that didn't purchase right away still purchase later. And this is pretty much the whole thing, right? So in between, we also run retargeting campaigns. So basically for the yearly offers and the offer that we have in this funnel. And that's pretty much all the magic there is to it. And as I said, this thing has led to $1.3 million in sales for us. And we have built it out completely in Perspective. And this is the whole funnel that we have right here. So we have the landing page, the opt-in, the personalization, as I said, with the different landing pages or different thank you pages. And we can adjust that and personalize content based on the data that we collect throughout the funnel. And this is really what's so easy in Perspective, right? We have just built this out in, I think, 60 minutes. Of course, we iterated a lot on this through the A/B testing feature. We can just do that in one click and basically create an A/B test, publish up here, and we're good to go. And then we analyzed the data, looked at, okay, what worked, what didn't work, and we had a working funnel. So that's the beauty of it. It's been up and running since, as I said, for roughly 1.5, 2 years, I think. This is the magic behind it. If you want to build out this type of funnel, you can copy and paste this exact template that I'm seeing right here on my screen through the link down below and create your free Perspective account. So just try it out for yourself. You can replicate this exact framework, this exact strategy. And if you're keen to learn more, please do that. And otherwise, just drop a comment below. Make sure to subscribe, and then we'll see each other in the next video. Cheers.